Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum and welcome back in lecture number 22. Today we are going to solve the problems mentioned at the end of the chapter number 13. And before that, let's have a look what did we study in our previous lecture. We covered the following topics, including the ranking of project proposals based on the scale of investment and project's life and the pattern of cash flows. So if we decide if we are going to accept any proposal, any investment proposal, so we have to take into account all these things as well. For example, maybe the size of the projects of different projects is so different. For example, in one project the investment is only $100,000, and whereas in the other project investment is $100 million. So in that case you might have different results as far as the net present value, profitability index and internal rate of return they are concerned. So these discounted cash flow techniques, they might recommend us otherwise, whereas the firm's benefit is कि firm के total wealth में कितना addition हो रहा है. For example, if we take the net present value of both the projects where the investment is different on the scale, तो जो smaller project है that might add a net present value equal to $10,000, whereas a project with $100 million investment may add $100,000 into the total wealth of the firm. So then we have to decide carefully that whether the discounted cash flow techniques, they are adding maximum value to the firm's wealth or not. And also we discussed the problem of capital rationing. So where we discussed the situation where the firm is having a limit on the total investment. So within that limit, firm has to decide whether to take on any project or not. And firms, they might have multiple projects and they may select any combination of them such that the maximum addition to the firm's wealth is possible. Sometimes if you rank the projects using the profitability index, maybe you will get maximum benefit as far as the wealth maximization is concerned. And the same way, अगर आप net present value के हिसाब से projects को rank करते हो, तो in that case you might have a value that is greater than any other technique. So this is where we rank the projects that the net worth of the firm would increase in any combination. And also we try to understand how sensitivity analysis allows us to challenge the single point input estimates used in traditional capital budgeting analysis. इसके अलावा हमने जो input variables थे, for example उसमें revenues थे या cost saving हैं या depreciation हैं, if we change all these variables या salvage value है of the asset, if we the one figure is that we take for our proposed project, and if we change the value of all these things. For example, if we increase the incremental revenues by 5%, or if we decrease the incremental revenues by 5%, and on both ways we can check it by increasing and decreasing with a percentage. And what is the net effect when we use the techniques of discounted cash flow method? So this is the sensitivity analysis, that what will happen if the value is changed like that. And also we try to explain the role and process of project monitoring, including progress reviews and post-completion audit. It would facilitate the firm to manage efficiently. For example, if the proposed investment and the proposed figures, they differ from the actual figures, so then it is the responsibility of the management to find out the reasons why they are differing from the proposed figures. और अगर उसमें difference जो है that is huge, so then a postmortem is necessary. So these are the techniques that we can facilitate the management to perform efficiently and to add wealth in the firm's total value. And today we are going to solve the problems given at the end of chapter number 13, and this is our third part of our chapter 13. So the learning outcomes, they are that you will be able to solve all the problems related to the capital budgeting techniques. We will try to solve all the problems given at the end of this chapter. And before that, let me remind you what are the important things in our previous lecture and how they will be helping us in our coming problem solving. One is that project relationships. One is the dependent project, that if one project is accepted, then the second project will be taken on. And there are mutually exclusive projects where we have to decide, the firm has to decide which of those projects should be accepted. When one project is accepted, the other one is rejected. So these are the mutually exclusive projects. So we are facing these mutually exclusive projects in this chapter. And as I mentioned before, that there are ranking problems based on the scale of investment, cash flow pattern, and project life. Then we have a net present value profile where there are two projects with different cash flow pattern. One is having increasing cash flow pattern and one is having decreasing cash flow pattern. And there is a point which is, at that point both have net present value equal, and below that discount rate the net present value is higher for project I in this case, and after that discount rate, that is given in this case is 10%, after that discount rate project D is good for the firm. So then firm has to decide at what required rate of return which project will be adopted, and this is known as net present value profile. And this point of intersection where both the projects they have equal value in case of net present value, so that point is known as Fisher's rate of intersection. And as I mentioned before, at required rate of return less than that discount rate, the project I is good here in this case, and at a point where discount rate is more than the discount rate of intersection, that then project D is better, where the cash flow pattern, the values of the cash flows, they are decreasing. So, and then we discuss the concept of capital rationing, where we have a ceiling on the budget, and under that budget the firm has to decide which projects to opt and which projects to reject. For example, if this is the situation where the available options they are from project A to project H, so you can see here the initial cash outflows they are given for all, and if there is a limit, for example in this case the limit in the budget ceiling is 32,500. So now the firm has to decide within this budget what combination of projects be selected such that there is a maximum addition to the firm's wealth. So then we have different discounted cash flow techniques. So, and we have the internal rate of return given for each project, we have net present value determined already for each project, and we have profitability index. So we can rank the projects according to these discounted cash flow methods, and then we will limit our investment to $32,500, and we select a combination of projects, and ultimately that project will be prioritized where the net addition to the firm's wealth is maximum. And also we discussed the sensitivity analysis. Let me remind you again what will happen if the variables or the assumptions they are changed. For example, in the case of change in revenues, installation cost, final salvage value, so we change all these variables and we look at the final pattern, what are the net present values, what are the profitability indexes, and what are the internal rates of return. And also we talked about the post completion audit, that why they are important, and they actually help to identify any project weaknesses and develop a possible set of corrective actions, और अगर कोई weaknesses हैं तो उसको किस तरह से rectify करना है, and also it provide appropriate feedback, और साथ ही you have to provide appropriate feedback based on your observations. And then the result is that it helps making better future decisions. And then also we have to we discussed about the multiple internal rates of return. So this is only possible when the cash flow patterns they alter among the signs of pluses and negatives, but the continuous negative and continuous positive will not add a multiple internal rate of return. For example, in this case we have a pattern of cash flow where we have a negative sign in the beginning, then positive, then positive, and then again negative. So in this case it is possible to have two internal rates of return, and then if we want to have more internal rates of return, in that case again there should be some alteration, that is positive and negative signs. So if it is continuously negative or continuously positive, in that case there will be no addition to the internal rates of return, and this is only a possibility. It may not be possible. So this is the concept of multiple internal rates of return. And you can see here that in case of two negative cash flows, we will have two internal rates of return. So in our previous example, which we discussed in our last lecture as well, you can see here one internal rate of return is at this level where the required rate is 12.95%, and also as you go along the discount rate you will reach again a point where the net present value becomes 0 again. So that point is again an internal rate of return. So you can see here there are two internal rates of return, one at 12.95%, the other one as 191.15%. And now we are going to solve problems given at the end of the chapter 13. So I suppose all of you have this book with you, the 12th edition of Fundamentals of Financial Management. And we go to chapter number 13, and at page 342, and we are going to solve the problems given here. So what you are supposed to have with you, this book, some notebooks and calculators as well, so you can at the same time while we are solving these problems, you can make your checks as well. So let's come to the first problem here, that Loeborgen Corporation has two investment proposals which have the following characteristics. The projects, they are given project A and project B, and the initial cash outflow is also mentioned here at period 0 for both cases. In project A it is 9,000, in project B it is 12,000, and then we have net cash flows for each of these projects, that is 5,000, 4,000 and 3,000 for project A, and 5,000, 5,000 and 8,000 for project B. So for each project compute its payback period, its net present value and its profitability index using a discount rate of 15%. So first of all we have to calculate the payback period, and then we will calculate the discounted cash flow methods. We'll use those techniques and we calculate the NPV, PI, profitability index, and internal rates of return. So okay, let's start with computing the payback period. So in this case, let's use our scale and we divide it for both of the projects. You can solve them separately as well. So here we have project A. This is problem 1, and we have project A and we have it for different periods. We have cash flows for different periods like 0, 1, 2 and 3, and we have net cash flows. The cash flows we have here, that is in the period 0 we have an initial cash outflow which is equal to $9,000, and it will carry a negative sign with it, and the subsequent cash flows, they have positive signs at the end of every next year, and 3,000. And when we are going to calculate the payback period, so we can draw a timeline as well, or we can use the cumulative technique, cumulative cash flows. So let's use the cumulative cash flows here. So what are the cumulative cash flows? So in this case, we start with period 1. So we have first year 5,000, and when we add the second year's cash flow, it becomes 9,000 here. So you can see here the payback period we reach, the payback period is equal to 2 years in this case, or 2 periods. And likewise, if you solve it for project B, so we have these periods given here 0, 1, 2, 3, and cash flows. First cash flow is 12,000, which is a negative cash flow, being the initial cash outflow, and then first year, at the end of first year we have 5,000, then again 5,000, and then we have 8,000. So what are the cumulative cash flows? We have 5,000 at the end of first year, then we have another 5,000, and cumulative cash flows would become for 2 years equal to 10,000. Now you can see here that the third year's cumulative cash flow will be 18,000. So our payback period lies between these two figures, which are between year 2 and year 3. So we can solve it for our calculation. Payback period will be equal to, up till this point we have a balance of 10,000, so 2 years plus our payback period lies between second and third year. So how we are going to calculate the fraction where we are going to receive the remaining balance of 2,000. So we are short of $2,000, and in that period in total firm is receiving 8,000. So 2,000 will be received in 1/4 or 0.25 periods, and in total we'll have 2.25 years as a payback period. So this is known as payback period method to compare the projects. So in this case, if you look at the projects, project A will be preferred over project B because project A is recovering its initial cash outflow earlier than project B. So let's look what the discounted cash flow techniques, what they are suggesting in this case. And if you look at the problem at the end, it is mentioned that discount rate is 15%. So first of all, we have to calculate the net present value and then its profitability index. So net present value, we can use the next slide. We have the period here for project A, and then cash flows, and the discount present value interest factor at 15% and present value. These are the things we will be considering when calculating for net present value, and after net present value it's quite easier to calculate the profitability index because we will be using the same calculations for the profitability index as well. So for periods 0, 1, 2, 3, we have cash flows of 9,000 and present value interest factor at 15% for 3 years. Let's have a look at the table 2 given at the end of this book, present value interest factor using table 2 under 15% for 3 years. So we have these values here. Before that, let me write the cash flows, which are 5,000 in the first year, 4,000 in the second year, and 3,000. And the third year's cash flow is 3,000. And the present value interest factor at 15% rate is given here. It is in table 2 under 15% for the first 3 years. It is equal to 0.870 for the first year, 0.756 and 0.658. And we calculate the present values. So at this point, present value interest factor we don't calculate because we already have this 9,000 cash flow at the present moment. So then we calculate the present value for 9,000 would remain as it is, and the present value of the first year's cash flow of 5,000 would become 5,000 into 0.870 is equal to 4,350, and then 4,000 into 0.756, it becomes 3,024. And for the third year, the present value of the third year's cash flow of 3,000, we multiply it with the present value interest factor of 0.658, it becomes 1974. So the present value of all these cash flows, excluding the initial cash outflow, we have it equal to, so the present value of all these cash flows starting from period 0 to period 3, we bring them back, all these cash flows at point t equal to 0, where period t is equal to 0, at the point where initial cash outflow occurred. So we have a total of minus 9,000 plus 4,350 plus 3024 plus 1974 is equal to 348. So we have 348, and this is the net present value in case of project A. And what would be the profitability index? Profitability index would be the present value of the future cash flows divided by the initial cash flow. So the present value of future cash flows is equal to 9,348 in this case, divided by 9,000, that is the initial cash outflow, and we have a profitability index equal to 1.03 or 1.04. And on the other hand, if we calculate it for project B, we have the periods starting from 0, 1, 2 and 3, and cash flows given in these at these times is equal to 12,000 and 5,000 for the first 2 years, and for the third year it is 8,000. And we have present value interest factor at 15% for these cash flows, which is 0.870, the same thing, 0.756 and 0.658. And if we multiply them, we get the present value. And remember, in this case, because the present value interest at the time 0 at any given rate would be the same at time t equal to 0, because in case you have in the denominator, in this case we have 1.15 and power 0, that is time, so it brings a value equal to 1. Anything with the power 0 is 1. So when we have in the denominator 1, so the value would remain the same. So you can see here the present value of the initial cash outflow would remain the same, and for every subsequent cash flow we have the same calculation, that is 4,350, and for the next cash flow of 5,000 we have 5,000 into 0.756, we have 3,780. And for the third year, where the cash flow is 8,000, and we multiply it 658 to get 5264, and we add them all the present values to get the net present value. So if you add up all these values and subtract it from 12,000, we have $1,394 as a positive cash flow. So in this case, you can see here, if you look at the net present values, project B is favorable for the firm to adopt. And if you look at the profitability index, it is 13,394 divided by 12,000, which is the initial cash outflow. It becomes equal to 1.12. So you can see here the profitability index of project B is greater. Net present value of project B is more than project A. So the firm should adopt project B in this case based on the discounted cash flow technique. And if we come to the problem number 2, it is related to problem 1. What criticism may be offered against the payback period method? So you can see here, when we use the payback period method in our previous slide, you can see here that the payback period in case of project A is 2 years, whereas in project B it is 2.25 years. But if you look at the cash flows after second year, the cash flow in case of project A is only 3,000, whereas after the payback period, that is 2.25, that is the point where the firm could receive all its cash outflows, and even after that firm could earn another 6,000. So the one thing is that in payback period method, the cash flows occurring after that payback period, firms, they don't, in this method it doesn't consider them. And if you come to the payback period method in comparison with the discounted cash flow techniques, they are giving more rational decision. For example, in case of project A, the net present value is quite less than the net present value in case of project B, whereas the recommendations of payback period method and net present value, they are totally different. And accordingly, profitability index of project B is higher than the profitability index of project A. And then we come to the problem number 3. Problem number 3, A parts, it is required here that an investment of $1,000 today will return $2,000 at the end of 10 years. What is the internal rate of return? So you can see here that an investment today of $1,000 would become $2,000, and we are supposed to find out the internal rate of return. So at what rate of return the investment of 1,000 becomes double? So we calculate the internal rate of return, that is the rate of return for 10 years, where when we take the present value, it becomes equal to the initial investment, that is $1,000. So we have to find out that 1 plus IRR, that is internal rate of return, with power 10. इस प्रॉब्लम में अगर आप देखें तो हमने वो रेट ऑफ रिटर्न फाइंड आउट करना है कि जहाँ पे हमारा जो फाइनल कैश फ्लो है, दैट इज $2,000, would become equal to the present value of the initial cash flow. So that is the initial cash outflow is equal to the present value of future cash flow that rate is known as internal rate of return. So we have to find out that rate. So in this case it's quite simple that we are concerned with present value interest factor which is equal to 0.5 in this case. For example, अगर हम इसको दोबारा लिखें तो हम इसको ऐसे भी लिख सकते हैं कि 1 over internal rate of return with power 10, और this 1 over 1 plus internal rate of return with power 10 should be equal to 0.5. अगर ये 0.5 के बराबर आता है and then we multiply it with 2000, only then we can have it equal to 1000, that is the initial investment, initial cash outflow. और अगर हम इसको उसके equal कर लेते हैं तो that rate is our internal rate of return. So now we have to find out what is that internal rate of return. अब इसमें एक तरीका तो ये है कि अगर आपको याद हो कि हमने डिस्कस किया था रूल ऑफ 72, उसमें क्या था कि एक इन्वेस्टमेंट को डबल होने में जितना टाइम लगेगा, अगर आप उस टाइम को 72 के साथ 72 के डिनोमिनेटर में ले जाएं एंड देन यू डिवाइड 72 विद दैट टाइम पीरियड, you will get a rate which is approximately equal to that internal rate of return. So in this case, if we use that same rate, so rule of 72 would suggest us that 72 divided by time period of that investment to become double. So in this case, the internal rate of return should be somewhere equal to 7.2%. So let's look what does it suggest. Okay, after 10 years with an return rate of internal rate of return equal to 7.2%, but we will not be given here 7.2%, we will be given here maybe 7% and 8%. So we find present value interest factor for 10th year which is close to 0.5. So if you look at under 7%, it is 0.508. So let's take that internal rate of return equal to 7%, where the present value interest factor for 7% with 10 years is equal to 0.508, and we use it in this equation, and we see that $1,000 is equal to 2000 into 0.508, and if you multiply it, it would become 1016, which is a little higher than our required 1000. So it would mean कि हमारा जो internal rate of return है, that should be a little more. अगर हम उसको internal rate of return को थोड़ा सा increase करेंगे, only then we have a higher value in the denominator, और जब वो numerator को जाके divide करेगी, then we have a multiplier which is a little smaller than we have at this moment. तो उस केस में जब हम 2000 को एक multiplier which is very much close to 0.5 उससे multiply करेंगे, only then we will be able to get it equal to $1,000. तो हम वो rate find out करेंगे. तो let's increase the rate a little bit and let's try it, the one we calculated using the rule of 72. अब rule of 72 में हमने assume किया था internal rate of return should be equal to 7.2%. तो अगर हम 7.2% को यूज करें, अगर हम अपने 7% से इंक्रीज करके 7.2% पे लेके जाएं, तो हमारी कैलकुलेशन क्या होगी? 2000 into 1 over 1 plus 7.2%, it will become 1.072 and whole power 10. अब हम इसको साइंटिफिक कैलकुलेटर यूज करते हुए सॉल्व कर सकते हैं. We'll write 1.072 and take power 10. It would become 2.00 something, and then we take an inverse of it, which is mentioned here as x power minus 1. So we press that button and you will get an answer equal to 0.4989. So अगर हम इसको राउंड करके लिखें तो it would be 2000 into 0.499, and if you multiply it to 2000 it will become 998. So we can see that 7.2% is much closer to the initial investment of 1000. लेकिन अगर हम आपको इससे भी precise rate of return चाहिए, then we can use the interpolation. In interpolation हमने उसकी practice पहले भी की हुई है, and let's do it again. कि we have two returns at 7%, which is 1016, and we have a return at 7.2%, which is 998, and what our required rate of return will yield us is equal to 1000. And let's use the interpolation here. That is, at 7% we got 1016 as a present value, whereas at our internal rate of return the answer will become, the present value should become exactly equal to 1000. And at 7.2% when we tried, we found 998. And now we can use the rule of interpolation, that let's suppose the difference between 7% and internal rate of return is x, and then the difference between 7% and 7.2%, it is 0.2, and here difference between these two values is 16, and difference between the first and the third value is equal to 18. So we can use the interpolation as the ratio between x and 0.2 should be equal to the ratio between 16 and 18. And if we solve for it, we get x equal to 16 divided by 18 into 0.2. We have 0.177. So this is the increment in the rate of 7% that will make the internal rate of return equal to, actually internal rate of return is x plus 7%. So from here we have 7.177%. So if we use this rate and we calculate, we use the same equation of that $1,000 with an internal rate of 1.07177 whole power 10. अगर हम इसको calculate करें तो it should be either exactly equal to 1000 or with a very minor difference from 1000. So let's solve it using the scientific calculator, and let's do it. 1.07177 whole power 10, it is equal to 1.999, and let's take an inverse of it. We get a figure of 2000 into 0.5000, and if you neglect it, so we have an exactly 0.5 here. So if you multiply it, you will get exactly equal to 1000. So this is the rate, that is 7.177%, or simply 7.17%. This is the internal rate of return in this case. So this will provide good exercise as far as internal rate of return is concerned. और इसके बाद भी जब भी हमें internal rate of return find out करना हो, तो we can use the interpolation. हम एक guess करके एक rate apply करेंगे, and then we calculate the present value of the future cash flows और हम देखेंगे कि हाउ मच डिफरेंट इट इज़ फ्रॉम द इनिशियल कैश आउट फ्लो। और ग्रेजुअली अगर हमारा आंसर ज़्यादा आया है फ्रॉम द इनिशियल कैश आउट फ्लो, तो इट मीन कि हम डिनोमिनेटर में अमाउंट को इंक्रीज करेंगे, हम अपना डिनोमिनेटर में इंटरनल रेट ऑफ रिटर्न को इंक्रीज करेंगे, एंड वी कीप ऑन इंक्रीजिंग इट until we reach the point where the present value becomes equal to the initial cash outflow. So that rate of return would be internal rate of return. And let's come to the point, to the second part of problem 3, that is part B here, and it says an investment of 1000 will return 500 at the end of each of the next 3 years. What is an internal rate of return? So it's again a very easy problem. So that if you look at the timeline here, for the initial cash outflow at time 0 is $1,000, and after that every year for the next 3 years, that is 1, 2 and 3, the cash flow is 500. It is same for all the 3 years. So if you can remember the rule of, we use the concept of an annuity, that if you receive the same cash flow at the end of every period, it means we can use the rule of annuity and present value interest factor table for ordinary annuity. अब ये है ordinary annuity जिसमें हमें कैश फ्लोज जो है वो एट द एंड ऑफ द पीरियड रिसीव हो रहे हैं, और अगर कैश फ्लोज इन द बिगनिंग ऑफ द पीरियड रिसीव हो रहे हों, दैट इज एन ऑर्डिनरी एन्युटी ड्यू. सो हियर दिस इज अ केस ऑफ ऑर्डिनरी एन्युटी, और इसकी जब हम प्रेजेंट वैल्यू फाइंड आउट करेंगे तो वी विल बी यूजिंग टेबल 4. सो इन दिस केस द इंटरनल रेट ऑफ रिटर्न वी हैव टू फाइंड, और इंटरनल रेट ऑफ रिटर्न क्या होगा कि वेयर आवर इनिशियल इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑफ $1,000 would become equal to the future cash flows, that is 500 for the next 3 years, and we use the present value interest factor at internal rate of return for 3 years such that we get it equal to 1000. अगर आप इसको देखें इस पार्ट को, तो this present value interest factor for ordinary annuity should be equal to 2 in this case. Only then we can find out an internal rate of return which is suggesting our initial cash outflow and the present value equal. So now let's look at the end of the book in the appendix table, table 4, and we look for a value where we get it very close to 2. Present value interest factor for the 3rd year, where we get a value very much close to 2, and we look what percentage is given there. So here we have for the 3rd year, and if you start from 1%, it is given 2.94, and if you keep on looking for the increased percentages, so if you reach 13, 14, 15 and all the way to 20%, at 20% you have it 2.106, and if you go further to 25%, we have 1.952. It means कि हमारा internal rate of return lies between 20% and 25%. So let's use that 20% rate of return and find a value, and accordingly we have to use the same interpolation formula again, and we calculate the exact internal rate of return. So for 20% at internal rate of return equal to 20%, when we calculate it, we have a multiplier of 2.106, and it gives us 500 into 2.106, it gives us 1053. It means still we have a higher value here, and if we use the internal rate of return of 30% such that कि डिनोमिनेटर में हमने एडजस्टमेंट इस तरह से की कि हमारा जो प्रेजेंट वैल्यू है दैट बिकम्स क्लोजर टू 1000. So in this case here we'll have that equation like this: 500, that is the cash flow occurring at the end of every year, into 1.952. So we have here 500 into 1.952, it makes it to 976. Now I leave the remaining part for you. What you have to do is you have to write down the interpolation and you have to solve for x, and that x will be added to the initial rate, or it will be, then you will find out the internal rate of return, and at that internal rate of return, when you calculate your present value, then it should be very much close or exactly equal to the initial cash outflow, and that will be your internal rate of return. And then we come to part C. I hope in this problem आपको कोई problem नहीं होगी, where you have for 20% it is equal to this amount, for 30% it is equal to this amount, and in the middle you will write internal rate of return IRR, and here in the middle you will write 1000, and then you will solve using the interpolation technique, and your answer will be somewhere between 20% and 30%. Okay, then we solve the part C. It says that an investment of 1000 today will return 900 at the end of first year, 500 at the end of second year, and 100 at the end of third year. What is the internal rate of return? So in this case again, if you look at this situation here, कि हमारे पास जो initial cash outflow है that is 1000, और हमारे जो future cash flows हैं at the end of first year it is 900, हम अगर उसकी present value at internal rate of return हमने लेनी है, and then for the second year we have a cash flow of 500, and we take the present value using the internal rate of return here, and then for the third year we have a cash flow of 100, और उसके लिए हमने internal rate of return के साथ present value find out करनी है. So this is the equation again, और अब हमने again we are going to use the interpolation. I'm not suggesting you the usage of financial calculator or any other calculator. So by using the hit and trial method, it will give you a good practice and you can solve it again, and you have to use the interpolation again. और अगर हम इसको देखें इस इक्वेशन को, और अगर हम let's suppose कि हमारे पास डिनोमिनेटर में अगर हमारे पास कोई एक वैल्यू which is about 5, I mean 0.5, so what does it mean? I'm sorry, if we have a value which is dividing this 900 with some value of 2, in that case we have 400 something here, and then we have something 250 here, and accordingly let's suppose somewhere 40 here. So in this case our value becomes quite less than 1000. So हमारे पास जो denominator में divider है that should be somewhere more than 2. So you have to find it out. For example, I will suggest you a little bit in this case कि अगर आप present value interest factor table 2 use करें, और in the denominator you take an amount of, for example, at the 30% table, if you take for the 3 years we have a figure of 0.455. So if you use this 0.455 for the third year, and for the second year it is 0.592, and for the first year it is 0.769, और अगर आप डिनोमिनेटर में ये फिगर्स यूज करो तो what present value do you find for these 3 cash flows? And if it is greater than 1000, then go for the next is 40%. So for the under 40% you calculate the present values for the first, second and third year's cash flows, and then if you look, it may be less than the initial cash flow. So then you have your answer lying between 30% and 40%. So if you solve it using the interpolation, you will get your internal rate of return. The rate of return, जब आप उसके तहत present value find out करोगे, तो you will get an answer which is very much close to your initial cash outflow, or maybe exactly equal to that initial cash outflow. And part D, this was C, and I leave it up to you, and I hope you can solve it without any problem. And for part D, an investment of 1,000 will return $130 per year forever. What is the internal rate of return? So in this case it's very easy. It is the form of perpetuity. और आपने याद होगा कि हमने चैप्टर 4 में, आई गेस इन चैप्टर 4 हमने फॉर परपेचुटी जब वैल्यू फाइंड आउट की थी, तो हमने इन केस ऑफ बॉन्ड हमने वैल्यू फाइंड आउट की थी कि रिक्वायर्ड रेट ऑफ रिटर्न डिवाइडेड बाय द फेस वैल्यू ऑफ द बॉन्ड. सो इन दिस केस हमने जो वैल्यू फाइंड आउट की थी यूजिंग दैट परपेचुटी टेक्निक, हमने उसमें जो अमाउंट ऑफ हमें इंटरेस्ट रिसीव होती थी फॉर दैट मे बी एनी अमाउंट, लेट्स सपोज दैट इज any amount of x, and we divide it with the rate of return, that is required rate of return. We suppose in case of bond it was KD, so in that case value was equal to the amount of interest divided by, you can denote it with any symbol here, divided by the required rate. So in this case you could find the value, and again if we are supposed to find the internal rate of return, given that 130 is the amount of cash flow at every year and it is forever, and the internal rate of return we have to find. And in this case internal rate of return would become equal to 130 divided by the value of investment, that is 1000. So this is equal to 13%. So this is quite simple, that you can solve it simply dividing the cash flow at the end of every year with the investment, that is the initial cash outflow, and you will get the rate of return in this case. So then let's come to problem 4. So the problem 4 says that two mutually exclusive projects have projected cash flows as follows. That is, project A has cash flow of minus 2000, that is outflow in the beginning, then 1000 at the end of each year for the next 4 years. And project B has a cash flow in the beginning of 2000, that is the same thing, and again at the end of 4th year it has a cash flow of 6000. So you can see here the project life they are same, but the cash flow pattern it is different. So the project A has a consistent cash flow of 1000 at the end of every year, where in case of project B the firm is able to receive cash only at the end of 4th year. So what we have to determine the internal rate of return for each project, and determine the net present value for each project at discount rate of 0, 5, 10, 20 and 30 and 35%. And after that plot a graph of the net present value of each project at different discount rates. And the D option requirement is, which project would you select, why, what assumptions are inherent in your decision. So lot of calculations they are involved here, but the problem is very simple. So first of all we started with calculation of the internal rate of return, and actually we had enough practice in our previous 3 questions, so let's do it again. So for the first part of problem 4, we solve for the internal rate of return, and we have for project A initial cash outflow is 2000, and after that it's an annuity. You can see the same cash flow occurring at the end of every year for the 4 years, and we have to find out an internal rate of return where the present value of those future cash flows becomes equal to the initial cash outflow of 2000. So in case of annuity, we use the present value interest factor of ordinary annuity using internal rate of return for 4 years. So in this case again, it's the somewhat same as that of problem number 3. We have to find a multiplier of 2 in this case. So अब again हमने present value interest factor of ordinary annuity में for the year 4 हमने एक ऐसा multiplier देखना है which is equal to 2 or very much close to 2. So if you take a look at the, now we will be using table 4 because this is a case of annuity, and ordinary annuities present value we determine it using table 4, and we are supposed to find a value for this factor equal to 2. So for the 4th year where we have present value of ordinary annuity equal to 2 or very much close to 2, it goes to, if you look at the 30%, under 30% for the 4th year you find 2.166. So here you have a multiplier of 2.166 where the IRR is equal to 30%. And if you solve it, you find it that it is 2,166. It is a little higher than our initial cash outflow. So in that case, we need a higher internal rate of return such that we get a lower value as a present value. So before we looked under 30%, it was 2.166, and if you continue to the 40th percent, it is 1.849. So if we suppose the internal rate of return equal to 40%, then again this equation will take this form, 1.849, and if you multiply it, you will get 1849. It means our answer lies between internal rate of return of 30% and 40%, and we will be using the interpolation technique again for 30%, and then for IRR it will be 2000, and then for 40% it will be 1849, and we use the differences on both sides, and we take the ratios and we assume those ratios equal, and we calculate for x, and that x will be added into the initial value of, that is 30%, plus the rate we find out as an x. So that will be our internal rate of return. So I leave it again up to you for your practice. And for project B, let's see what happens in case of project B. We have a cash flow of 6,000 at the end of 4th year. So we have to make a calculation of 6,000 divided by 1 plus internal rate of return of 4th year. So now we have to find out a multiplier which is equal to 1 over 3 in this case. So to find it equal to 3 in this case here, that is 1, it should be equal to 1 over 3. So to make it equal to 3, let's look into the table, that is table 2 in this case, because this is not an annuity, this is a single sum of cash flow. अब हमने table 2 में ऐसी value find out करनी है as a present value for our equation, which is equal to 3 in this case, 1 over 3. So 1 over 3 in fact is 0.333. It should be 0.333. So if you look at the table 2, and if you look for a value of 0.33 for 4th year, you come to, for under 30% we have a value of 0.350, and if we solve it for 350, where the internal rate of return we suppose is 30%. So we solve it and we get a value equal to, this is 2100, that 2100. It is a little higher than our initial cash outflow. So we assume a bit higher rate. Then let's suppose again it is internal rate of return is 40%, and we solve it for this 40%, and again we find a value, and again I leave it up to you to solve it using interpolation, and you will find an internal rate of return. Now let's solve part B of question number 4. It is problem 4 and part B here. So here we have to find out the net present value at different discount rates for project A and project B. So I will try to calculate one of the projects, and for the second project you will calculate it by yourself, and then you make a comparison. So for project A, let me solve it. That is for different discount rates. Because this is an annuity, we don't need to expand the calculations, so we can solve it very smartly here. So the discount rate is given is as 0%, 5%, 10%, 20, 30 and 35%. 20, 30 and 35%. And the net present value of project A will become, under all these discount rates, that is the initial cash outflow is minus 2000, that is the initial cash outflow, plus the subsequent cash flows, that is 1000, would be divided by 1 plus the discount rate, which is 0, with power 1, plus the second cash flow, 1 plus 0 power 2, plus the third cash flow, 1 plus 0 power 3, and so on for the fourth cash flow, with 1 plus 0, which is the discount rate for the fourth. And all these denominators will be calculated as 1, because 1 with any power remains 1. So you can see here in the end, that is the net present value would become minus 2000 plus 4000, which is equal to 2000. And if you solve it for 5%, you can also use the annuity, that is the net present value would be minus 2000 the initial cash outflow, and the present value of all the future cash flows, which is 1000 into present value interest factor of ordinary annuity at 5% for 4 years. And if you look it into the table, you will find it equal to 5% for 4 years. And in table 4 we have it 3.546. So you can add a value of present value, that is 1000 into 3.546. So when we solve it, we have a net present value equal to 1546, and so on. We will be solving it using the same technique, that using the ordinary present value interest factor of ordinary annuity, and we will keep on calculating it in the appendix table with 10% here for 4 years. And again we can solve it for this equation, and accordingly we will be solving it for all the equations, so that we have a present value, net present value for project A under all these discount rates. And likewise we will calculate the present values of the cash flows of project B. So as you can see here, there is only one cash flow at the end of the 4th year, so we have one calculation each. So in this case also we have one calculation, because we don't need to calculate the present values of each and every cash flow. and here we can use the annuity formula here. And then in case of project B, for all the discount rates, we calculate the present value of the cash flow of 6,000 at the end of 4 years, so that we have net present values for both of these projects. And then as a requirement of problem 4 in part C, plot a graph of the net present value of each project at the end at the different discount rates. And after that we have to plot a graph between the discount rate and the net present value. This is the NPV, और आपने along y axis net present value लेनी है and along the x axis discount rate लेना है. And you can take a graph paper or you can take a scale and you will graph both the net present values, and you will find an equation something like that, where both will be intersecting each other at some point, or maybe they are not intersecting each other. So then you will have an explanation for that graph as well. Which project would you select? Why? What assumptions are inherent in your decision? अब जब आप एक प्लॉट को ड्रॉ करोगे ग्राफ पेपर पे, तो वो अगर वो किसी पॉइंट पे इंटरसेक्ट करते हैं, सो इन दैट केस वो पॉइंट ऑफ इंटरसेक्शन पे उनका रिटर्न बिफोर पॉइंट ऑफ इंटरसेक्शन एंड आफ्टर द पॉइंट ऑफ इंटरसेक्शन, उनकी जो प्रेजेंट वैल्यू की होगी कैश फ्लोज की, दे विल बी क्वाइट डिफरेंट इन बोथ ऑफ दीज प्रोजेक्ट्स. एंड यू कैन मेक योर रिकमेंडेशंस कि फॉर a discount rate less than that Fisher's intersection rate, हमने उसको Fisher's intersection rate के साथ डिनोट किया था कि अगर डिस्काउंट रेट फिशर इंटरसेक्शन रेट से कम होता है then maybe project A is good for the firm. ये आप ग्राफ में से देख सकते हो, जिसका ग्राफ हायर लेवल पे होगा that is good for the firm. और अगर प्रोजेक्ट A का ग्राफ प्रोजेक्ट B से ऊपर है, in that case that project is favorable for the firm. और अगर इंटरसेक्शन पॉइंट के बाद that is after point of intersection, that what we call as Fisher's intersection, उस डिस्काउंट रेट के बाद अगर प्रोजेक्ट A जो है that is going lower than the project B, in that case for a discount rate higher than that intersection rate, project B is favorable for the firm. So you can write down your recommendations accordingly. And let's now solve the problem number 5. And let's see what does it says. Zair Electronics can make either of two investments at time 0, assuming a required rate of return of 14%. So the required rate of return is 14%. Determine for each project, one is payback period, the net present value, the profitability index, and internal rate of return. So assume under MACRS, that is Modified Accelerated Cost Recovery System, the asset falls in the 5-year property class and that the corporate tax is 34%. The initial investment required and yearly savings before depreciation and taxes are shown below. For project A, the investment is 28,000 at time t equal to 0. The initial cash outflow is 28,000, and after that there is a cash inflow of 8,000 for the next 7 years. And for the project B, the initial investment is 20,000, and after that a cash flow pattern is 5,000 in the first 2 years, 6,000 in the second pair of third and fourth year, then 7,000 in fifth and sixth year, and seventh year again. So we have this cash flow pattern, and also the initial investment for the project is given. So we are not going to take these figures as it is, because हमने incremental change in the income जो है या कैश फ्लो वो लेनी है. सो हम इंक्रीमेंटल चेंज इन द कैश फ्लोज किस तरह से डिटरमिन करेंगे, जिस तरह हमने पिछले चैप्टर के अंदर हमने कैश फ्लोज को डिटरमिन किया था बाय सब्ट्रैक्टिंग द डेप्रिसिएशन फ्रॉम द कैश फ्लोज, और उसके बाद हमने दैट वाज द चेंज इन द इनकम बिफोर टैक्स, उसके बाद हमने उसके ऊपर टैक्स अप्लाई किया था, एंड देन वी फाउंड द नेट चेंज इन द इनकम आफ्टर टैक्स। उसके बाद हमने डेप्रिसिएशन को ऐड बैक किया था सच दैट कि हमारे पास जो नेट चेंज इन कैश फ्लो है वो हम डिटरमिन कर लें, एंड दैट कैश फ्लो वी विल बी यूजिंग for the payback period method and for the discounted cash flow methods, that is NPV, PI and IRR. So let's now have a practice of that previous chapter again, such that we can, for project A we are going to solve it at the moment. For project A, the initial cash outflow is equal to 28,000, and then for the subsequent years we have to find out the incremental cash flows, that is after taking the tax impact and adding back the depreciations also. So we have the cash flows, the incremental revenues you can say here for the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh year. So they are same for all the years. And then we have to calculate the depreciation based on the MACRS method and under the 5 years property class. अब 5 year property class would mean कि हमने asset को depreciate करना है in 6 years, और उसका जो depreciation rate है that is the rate given under the 5 years property class. अगर आप खुद भी इसको determine कर सकते हैं, and if you want to determine it by yourself, so let me give you a working in the next slide. Okay, for 5 years, in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth year हमने modified accelerated cost recovery system के तहत इनका depreciation rate find out करना है. So in this case we take the double declining effect, that is the 1/5 and we double it. और इसमें MACRS में हमने रूल ये है कि पहला और आखिरी जो डेप्रिसिएशन है that will be determined for 6 months. So here we calculate it for 6 months and it becomes equal to 20%. अब remember that हमारे पास जो asset है that is suppose that is 1 or 100. In this case if it is 20%, the asset is 100 here. In this case this is applied on an asset equal to 100%. Okay, so we have a value of 20% depreciation for the year, और remaining value हमारे पास कितनी आ गई 80% of the asset. अब हमने जो next rate apply करना है that is 1/5 and we take the double effect of it, and now we don't need this 6/12 because this is for full 1 year. अब हमारे पास जो remaining balance है that is 80% in the asset. तो हमारे पास क्या आएगा 32%. If you solve it you will find it equal to 32%, and the remaining क्या आएगा हमारे पास out of जो total depreciation अभी तक हो चुकी है that is 52% and we have left with 48%. ठीक है, अब जो third year depreciation होगी that will be again double impact of at a balance of 48%. So you can find it out equal to 19.2%. For the third year it will be 19.2%, and you can see here that now we have a total depreciation equal to this amount, and या आप इसमें 48% में से भी 19.2 को माइनस कर सकते हैं, and you will get 28.8% left here. the asset that is left for depreciation, it is 28.8%, and the next depreciation will be on this level value. अब हमने MACRS में assume ये किया हुआ है कि half of the life of the asset we use the double declining balance. So अभी यहाँ तक there have been 2.5 years, because in the first period we used 6 months, and after that we used full 1 year, and then we have left 2.5 years again, and for these 2.5 years we will be using straight line depreciation method. So what we will use now is equal to 1 over 5 into the remaining value, 1 over 2.5, that is the remaining life of the asset, into the remaining value of the asset, that is 28.8%. So what we have now is 11.52% for the fourth year. And again, because it is a straight line method, so we have the same calculation. So we have 11.52% for the fifth year, and then for the sixth year, which is we are left with only 6 months in this case. So we have the straight line method for 6 months, 6 over 12, and we calculate it for 6 months. It will become equal to 5.76%. 5.76%. So these are the rates we will be using under MACRS 5 years property class. So for the first year, depreciation would be 20% of the asset, that is 5600. This is the depreciation. And then the second period, it will become 32% of the asset, and it is equal to 8960. And for the third year, it is 5376, then 3226, 3225, 1613, and at the end of sixth year, the asset is depreciated all, and we don't have any book value left for the seventh year, so no depreciation is there. So these are the deductions from the cash flows in the form of depreciation. So after deducting depreciation, what we find is the change in profit before tax. So we deduct all these figures as depreciation given here, and we find out 2400 here, 960 as a negative figure here, because it is a kind of loss in this case, a negative cash flow. And then for the third year, again a profit of 2624, and here 4777 74, and then 4775, and for the sixth year it becomes 6387, and for the last year it remains the same as 8000. So then apply tax. Tax is mentioned here as 34%. And we calculate 34% of this value, it becomes 816, and then we calculated 326. So this will provide a tax shield. This will reduce the loss by the same amount. And then again we have a tax of 892, 1623, 1624, 2172, and 2720. And then you will be able to find the change in profit after tax. So you can calculate it by deducting these figures from the profit before tax, and we find it 1584, then 634. The loss has been reduced because of the tax shield, and 1732, then 3151, and 3151 again, and 4215, and 8000 minus 2720, and 5280. So these are the changes in profit after tax. Now we have to find out the cash flows, incremental cash flows. So then we have to add back the depreciation we deducted in the beginning. So here at F we get change in the cash flows, and it will be equal to E plus B, so that we add depreciation back into the change in profit after tax, so that we get, if we add back the depreciation, we get the following figures, that is 7184, 8326, 8326, and then 7108, 6377, 6376, 5828, and 5280, because here we don't have any depreciation to add back, because the balance of depreciation is 0 in the 7th year. So now we have these cash flows, as you can see here, these cash flows at the end of every year for the next 7 years. And now we have to calculate the payback period in the, so we have to find out the payback period. So payback period, let's take the cumulative cash flows. So in this case we have to make it equal to 28,000, that is the initial cash outflow. So the cumulative cash flows in the first year it is 7,184, and in the second year it becomes, we add this second flow, it becomes 15,510, and in the third year it becomes 22,618, and in the fourth year it becomes 28,995. So from this cumulative cash flow, we can identify that our payback period lies between the year 3 and year 4, because we are going to make up our 28,000 cash outflow in the year 3 and 4. So what is remaining here in this case? So if you deduct 28,000 from this cumulative cash flow, we have 5382. So the firm requires another cash flow of 5,382, whereas in this year the firm has a cash flow of 6,377. So it gives us 0.84. So the payback period becomes 3.84 years. So we can calculate easily using the cumulative cash flows, and we can also draw it on a timeline, and for the years we can assign values A, B, C, and then we add them back and process those values to find out our payback period. And then we have to find out the net present value for each of these cash flows at the rate of 14%. So you can calculate it in the same flow, that is the cash flow. We have cash flows given in the series F. So if you look at the row F, we have the cash flows here. So for these cash flows at 14%, we use the discount rate of 14%, and we calculate the present value for every year. And let me write few of these values for you. Present value of the cash flows. So it will become for the first year 7,184 divided by 1 plus 14%, it will make it 1.14 and power 1. This will give us a value of the first year's cash flow, present value of the first year's cash flow. Then we use this figure of the second year's cash flow, and we divide it with the discount factor of the second year, and so on. We make our calculations for all the 7 years such that we get present values for each of the 7 years cash flows, and then we add them up so that we have present value of all our future cash flows, and we deduct the initial cash outflow, that is 28,000. और उसके बाद if there is a positive value, we can say the net present value is positive with this amount. And same way we calculate the profitability index, that is the present value of the future cash flows divided by the initial cash outflow. और इसी तरह से हम project B के लिए we will write down all the cash flows, and then we calculate the depreciation using the same MACRS method for the initial cash outflow of 20,000. अब हमारे पास asset की जो value है to be depreciated is 20,000 here. अब हम 20,000 asset की value को depreciate करेंगे over the time of 6 years, और 7th year में हमारे पास 0 depreciation होगी. And after that we calculate the change in profit before tax, and then we apply a tax of 34% in this case, and then we calculate the change in profit after tax. और आफ्टर टैक्स प्रॉफिट में हम डेप्रिसिएशन को ऐड बैक करेंगे, जिसको हमने सेकंड स्टेप में डिडक्ट किया था. जब हम उसको ऐड बैक कर देंगे तो इट मींस कि वी हैव द कैश फ्लोज फॉर दैट पीरियड विच आर द रिक्वायर्ड कैश फ्लोज, विच आर द इंक्रीमेंटल कैश फ्लोज वी आर लुकिंग फॉर. अब हम उस कैश फ्लोज को उनका पे बैक पीरियड मेथड कैलकुलेट करने के लिए हम उनका कुमुलेटिव कैश फ्लोज लेंगे, और जहाँ पे हमारा रिक्वायर्ड बैलेंस होगा जिस 2 ईयर्स के दरमियान में, हम वहाँ अपनी कैलकुलेशन करेंगे जस्ट लाइक वी डिड इन प्रोजेक्ट ए, एंड वी कैलकुलेट द पे बैक पीरियड फॉर दैट प्रोजेक्ट बी. और अकॉर्डिंगली एट द 14% डिस्काउंट रेट हम उनकी फ्यूचर कैश फ्लोज की प्रेजेंट वैल्यू डिटरमिन करेंगे फॉर ऑल दोज 7 फ्यूचर कैश फ्लोज. अब हम उनको फ्यूचर जो प्रेजेंट वैल्यू फाइंड आउट करेंगे, so then we deduct the initial cash outflow from this total of the present values such that we find the net present value. अब जो net present value होगी, then we compare it with the project A. So which value is favorable for the firm such that we can make our recommendations accordingly, and then we calculate the profitability index as well. So this is problem 5. So I leave the rest of the problem for you, and I hope you can do it yourself easily. So the time is over for our today's lecture. So in today's lecture we had a practice of solving different problems and using different techniques, that is the payback period method and the discounted cash flow techniques we use to identify which project is suitable for the firm and which is not suitable. And also there are some problems left, so based on that we can make our recommendations. So hope to take on those remaining few problems in the next lecture so that we can have a good look into the different matters being discussed into the chapter, and inshallah see you in the next lecture. Till then, Assalamu alaikum.